Hi Book Dragons! I am here to do part 1 of my August reading wrap up. And I will admit, I wasn't going to do this because I didn't think I was going to read a ton this month, but I did. And I read a ridiculous amount of things when I was traveling. I went to Ireland for 10 days. So yeah, we have to do this or like my wrap up is going to be ridiculously big and I can't have that. So yeah. But it is August. I have already read 15 books. We're going to talk about 15 things. And if books are like themed, I will try to like condense them because there's 3 books I read in the same exact series and they all have the same exact rating. But yeah, I'll also, whenever I start adding pictures, it's because everything I read was on my Kindle. So, but I read 15 books in the month of August so far. I read 4,299 pages for an average page of 138 pages per day. I did read a lot when I was traveling because I was on a bus tour. And then my average page count was 286. I did read a lot of mystery. I read 4 books with rep, 7 from authors I read before, and I hauled 15 books. I had 5 5-stars, 2 4.5 stars, 6 4 stars, 1 3.5 star for an average rating of 4.10. I read 9 new releases, 2 backlists, 4 from last year. I read 3 physicals, 6 audiobooks, 0 mixed media, and 6 ebook. I started 6 series. I continued in 4. I technically caught up in 1, but there's gonna be another book out at the end of the month, so I just didn't include that. And then I read 4 standalones, and I read 4 companions. I read 3 middle grade, 4 young adult, and 8 adult. I read 5 ARCs, 3 from Audible, 2 from KU, 3 from Library, 1 from NetGalley, 1 owned, 0 from Everand. So yeah, let's get into the books that I read this month. And yeah. So the first 2 books that I read before I left, let me just see if I could go backwards in time a little bit. Oh my god, this is gonna bother me. Okay. Hold on, sorry. I read a lot of things, but they're all not in the proper order. So hold on one second. Let me find where we are. Okay. So, the first thing that I finished reading was Of Flame and Fury by Michaela Bryant. This is an Owl Crate book that I tabbed the hell out of. This is Phoenix's, and I had a fabulous time with this book. I gave this book 5 stars. It was a slow burn, enemies to more romance about a main character named Kel, and she is kind of in this team that is a Phoenix Hunter or a Phoenix Rider, and that is her job. She has a Phoenix. And there's a lot of political stuff kind of under the cover, and she has to kind of team up with this other team of 2 brothers to kind of race her Phoenix, and I had a great time with this book. This book was perfect. It was so fun. I don't always like hate to more romances, but this one really, really worked for me, and I had a great time with it. So happy that I finally picked it up. I normally am so bad about reading my special editions. We are hopefully going to get a second book. I love the romance. I loved all the side characters. I love the animals, and if you're looking for something, I would say it's not exactly like Fourth Wing, but there are vibes of that. The Phoenixes don't talk, but they do have personalities, and I really did enjoy it. I gave this book 5 stars. It was one of my favorites of the month so far. And then the next book that I read was one that I was really nervous about, and that is Not Quite Dead Yet by Holly Jackson. I gave this book 5 stars. I love this book. My relationship with Holly Jackson is I loved the first 2 books in the Good Girls Guide to Murder series, and then everything else has been a little bit lacking. I really didn't like the last Good Girls Guide to Murder book, and I also didn't really like the reappearance of Rachel Price, and I was really hesitant to go into her adult debut because I was like, oh god, adult books and adult thrillers and me don't always get along because I sometimes feel like I hate all the characters. This book was so interesting, and I was so captivated. So you follow a character named Jet, and she basically gets beat up. She doesn't know what happened to her, and she has a couple of medical issues that make her, like her beating up, like the beating she took leads to a brain aneurysm that's eventually going to kill her in about a week. So she kind of teams up with her best friend to solve her murder. I was so captivated. I will say Jet is not the most likable character, but I really did like her, and it does have elements I really did like. I thought it was very, very fast paced. It was quick, and I really had a fun time, and I gave this book 5 stars. Definitely a new favorite by this author, and I definitely will check out more of her books. I'll give her another shot, because after the reappearance of Rachel Price, I was really, really questioning if I was going to like her, but I really did like this one. I gave it 5 stars. It was really, really fun read. And then I picked up Dragonborn by Sturt Murray, which I gave 3.75 stars. I just didn't feel connected to the characters in this book, like, at all. It really did give me Red vibes from Pixar, like that movie, but you basically follow a main character named Alex, and she finds out she's a dragon and she has to kind of deal with that. And there is a lot of stuff in this story. It's a lot of twisty turny, very, very adventure focused, very, very young girl focused, I will say that. But I had a fun time with it. I just didn't feel that connected to the characters. I will probably save this for my students next year and give it to them because I think that they will like it. They like very, very action adventure stories, and I sometimes need a bit more character building. But it was fun, and if you like action focused stories, I think you should pick this one up. And then the next, see, I have to see on my, yeah, some of these are not in order. All right, let me go back to my graphic, sorry. Sometimes things are not on order and it's gonna bother me. Okay, so the thing I read, my first official book of going to Ireland when I was in the airport, was Heir of Storms by Lauren Hamilton Murray. This is an elemental magic story. I love this book. I gave this book 5 stars. It was so fun. This is why I need to read my special editions, because books like this really do work. I love elemental magic. My favorite series of the last 2 years was Isles of the Gods by Amy Kaufman that had it. This book also has heavy trials, which makes sense. So you basically follow a main character, and her birth caused a flood that basically killed a lot of people. So she's basically known as like a killer from the day she was born. And she was born into the wrong family, so like there's different elemental quadrants, and she is born into the wrong one. Her entire family is fire and she is water. And she gets invited to go to this trial that basically picks the leader of the known world, like the leader of her elemental quadrant, and she basically is chosen for that. And she's going there with her brother, with her twin brother, and a bunch of other characters. And I just was really, really captivated by the story. There was a lot of twist and turn. There were characters that it was a romance that I was really invested in. And there were some twists that I did not see coming. So I really did like this book. And I think that if you need a story that has a clear, like, plot, very, very magic focused, a lot of side characters, a lot of twists that I didn't see coming, I really like this book, and I gave it 5 stars. It had a little bit of pacing issues. I kind of equate it to when I was reading the Olivia Rose Darling book, the first book. I can't remember the name of it, but it had some subtle pacing issues, but I really selected and gave it 5 stars. So I definitely am excited for book 2 in this series. And then the next book that I picked up was A Vampire's Guide to Blood and Boyfriends. This was another NetGalley book that I picked up when I was listening to it. I'll attach a photo of that here. I gave this book 4.5 stars. I had such a fun time with this. This was a great listen. This was my Dublin audiobook, so I was listening when I was walking around Dublin by myself that first day, and I had such a fun time with this book. Basically, you follow this main character, and I will say there is a lot of anxiety wrapped in here and depression. Our main character had a suicide attempt the year before, but you know, in the present, he basically got hit by a car, and he was saved by a vampire that got him turned into a vampire, and he's kind of dealing with that. He has a relationship with a guy, and this was an LGBTQ plus romance. He has a relationship with the librarian in this story, and it's just him kind of uncovering like how to be a vampire, and there's a little bit of political stuff and a little bit of mystery kind of undergirding. I really liked it. If you like Buffy, I'd pick this book up, but I really was captured by the writing style of the story, and it just was a very quick listen. And at the end, I would love to see more books set in this world, but if you're looking for like an LGBTQ plus, a fun, light story, great for like an early fall read, I would pick this one up. So then I dived into a lot of my ebooks that I was reading as I was kind of adventuring around London. I was on like a bus tour, so I had I had a lot of time. So I'm going to talk about 2 books together, and one is, I'm gonna have to attach a photo, but it's called The Dragon Wagon Refuge, and this is a cozy mystery or a cozy fantasy series, but I will attach a photo of that here. I thought this book was so cute. It was a little novella about this girl who was kind of going through her life, trying to find her own way in the world. And she basically is trying to figure out what she wants to do. And she kind of goes through a bunch of different things. And it ends with her being connected with dragons. And I had a fun time. It was a really, really quick audiobook. Very, very cozy vibes. Very, very plot focused. And that's what I think I need in my cozy fantasy books. I need a clear plot that pushes me forward. And the next couple I'm going to talk about definitely did have that throughout that. And that is why they really, really worked for me. Currently in August, like later half August, I'm having a harder time with cozy fantasies. But these that I read in the early part of the month, I really, really did like. So I gave that book 4.5 stars. And the next book is A Drizzle of Magic. And this is a cozy fantasy mystery. And I really had a fun time with this one as well. And I gave this one 4.75 size. Here's a photo. This is about a character that is trying her hardest to open up a baking shop, but she is a known, like, she has magic. She can use her magic to kind of enhance her baking. And basically the queen has kind of put them, like, the queen that was the rule that they were under, that was like illegal and people would like kill you and attack you, but the queen has been overturned and all of these people are coming back and has kind of been figuring out how to live in these towns again. And there is someone trying to get these people to leave town. And she's kind of solving that murder mystery or solving that mystery. And I really did like it. It was a very, very quick read. I am a big baking person. Like, I love that in a story. So you add magic and there was just a lot of side characters and I had a fun time. And this is probably one of the series I really do want to keep reading because this is my perfect mix of cozy fantasy. And then the next book I read is The Gilded Heiress by Joanna Shoup. This is an e-arc that I had from Neck Alley. I will attach a photo of that here. This is her first historical in a while, and this is an Anastasia retelling. I love this book. I gave this book 5 stars. Anastasia is one of my favorite, like, one of my favorite princesses, and I love this book. So basically you follow a main character, and he worked at this mansion, and basically this little girl was kidnapped and she was never found, and he finds this girl on the street and basically wants to stick it to this rich family because they fired his father thinking his dad was connected to this kidnapping. And he finds this girl that he thinks looks like this little girl, and they're gonna kind of trick this old woman and trick this family. And it was a very, very steamy story, but I was so captured. I had such a fun time with this book. I read it super fast. I really like both characters. We had enough side characters where you could build a world, and I just love Joanna Shoup, and I'm so happy she's writing historical again. I know she has other pen names, but this is really the only one that is capturing to me. I really hope we get more books out in this world, but this is definitely a new favorite, and I gave this book 5 stars. Such a fun time. I really did enjoy it. And then I'm going to talk about the next, I think I listened to 3. Yeah, I think I have to make sure my graphics are up to date because I think I read 3 Ellie Alexander. Yeah, I think I read 3 of them. I'm gonna have to update my graphic later. But yeah, I read 3 Ellie Alexander books. So I read The Smoking Bun, Sticks and Stone, and Killing Me Soft Souffle. And those are the last 3 Ellie Alexander books that I had to catch up on. So here are those 3. I'll attach them here. These are the next books in the Ellie Alexander series. These are all 4-star reads for me. I really do like this series. It's definitely like a nice palette cleanser. And I'm sort of bummed that I caught myself up because these are great like palette cleansers for when I read. Out of all of these, I really did like the last one. The setting was a little bit different. We also see Jules in a bit of a different spot in her romantic and personal life. And I really did like this one. So all these 4 books I gave 4 stars. I listened to them rather quickly in the middle of my trip and I just had a fun time with it. So I'm happy that I caught up, but sad that I don't have any more palette cleansers. So if you know any cozy mystery series that is longer but are kind of fun palette cleansers, bonus points if they have to do with baking, let me know because I would love to add that to my rotation. And then the next book that I read was Where Magic Begins by Faith Price. She actually reached out to me on Instagram and asked me if I wanted to review it, and I said I would review it on my trip because I had a lot of Kindle reading time. I'll attach a photo of this here. This is a YA like fantasy series, but very, very paranormal focused. You basically follow these two twins as they're coming into their powers, and they're kind of uncovering what happened. They have basically been kicked out of the witch-based society because her mom and dad married and her dad was not a witch, and now people are coming after her and her twin sister, and one of the sisters doesn't have a ton of magic and the other sister has all the magic, and basically that's the story. It's very, very politically focused. There's two very, very different girls. There's two strong romances. I had a fun time. I really do want to read book 2. I just don't know when I'm gonna have time to read it because I don't read on my Kindle a ton. But if you're looking for kind of a different take, like a different YA fantasy that's not as popular, I would check this one out because I had a fun time with it. It is a very, very YA, very, very tropey. The characters grow on you, but I had a fun time with it and I gave it 4 stars. And then I'm gonna group these together too. I read 2 Spider-Man Quantum Quest and Spider-Man Assemble. It's called the Marvel Team Up series, and I just read these one day when I was like commuting, like on the bus. They were very, very quick and they were fun. Spider-Man's my favorite character, and these are very, very animal focused. So I'll attach a photo of those here. I gave both of these like 3.75 stars. They were so fun. I think my students would really, really like these, so I may see if I can get them for my classroom because I think that they would get a kick out of them, and I gave them 3.75 stars. And the last book I'm going to talk about in this wrap-up is My Next Breath by Jeremy Renner. This is my nonfiction book for the month, and I'm so happy that I finally got around to it. Here's the photo. This is Jeremy Renner's story after he was run over by a snowplow on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, and it was harrowing. I really did like this. This is definitely not focused. I mean, you talk a little bit about his life, but it's very much a story focused on his recovery and what his recovery entailed and that whole situation told from his point of view. He reads it, and I had a fun time. I really did like it, and yeah, that was one of my last books that I finished on my trip. I read a few other ones, but we'll talk about those at the end of my month wrap up. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you read in the first half of August. I would love to know, and I'll talk to you guys soon for another video.